Operation Strat Rescue, Video 1. This Strat, and I don't know whether it's a Fender or whatever, belongs to a very good friend of mine who's a very good player, and he's been playing this workhorse for a real long time. Judging by the grain lines telegraphing through this blue sparkle finish, I think this is an ash body under here. I've got everything removed. I'm going to shield it. The first thing I've got to do is get in here and get all this old polishing compound out. And I've got some naphtha for that. And the old fender bridge, the threads in the bar are stripped and it makes a terrible sound. And the springs are all worn out. So I've got a new Goto vintage bridge that'll go on there. That'll be just fine. Once I get all this cleaned out, I'm going to shield the cavities. I'm going to use the copper foil for this one because I'm out of the paint and it's expensive and the foil works really well. Let me show you two other things here before I go to the electronics. Three things, sorry. The nut slots are both too high and too wide, and the strings have been pinging, and there's not been enough behind the nut angle, so I'm going to fix that. There's been some serious friction at this string tree. I think we're going to put in a little roller or something. He doesn't use the bar that much, but it's nice to have it not go ping. This is the machine that should not go ping. The thing that I will not be doing are the frets. They are worn pretty flat in the upper registers, and they've got divots and dents around here. I'm going to burnish them with a stainless steel spoon, which is a way to smooth out some of the divots. It's not perfect. This guitar really needs all new frets, or at least have them recrowned. But given how square they are up higher and flat, I think it's probably time for new frets. That is outside the guitarist's budget right now, and that is outside my expertise. I have friends who do that, but I will burnish these a little bit with a stainless spoon and recondition the fretboard at the least. I can do the nut slots, and I can do something about this string tree. Let me show you the electronics. Pretty standard stuff here. You got some custom shop single coils. I don't know which ones these are. It's pretty standard Strat stuff. It's got some corrosion on this old copper. I'm going to remove everything, clean this copper. I'm going to clean the back of the pick guard, put some full aluminum shielding on here so that it'll make a full shield once it's in contact with the foil that I put inside the body cavities. I'm going to replace some of the less than stellar wiring here just because most of the wiring here is actually quite good, and that once it's all positioned correctly so it doesn't get pinched in the body cavity should be just fine. I'm going to clean the pots, and I'm going to put a solid piece of bus bar just to help the pots not move. There's a little bit of wiggle there. It's not all the way tight. In fact, that shell is not all the way tight on the pot. You can see the wafer is not moving, but the shell is. These are all things I'll pay attention to. But the pots all measure fine and work okay, just a little bit. They were a little bit dirty. I've already cleaned them once. But right there, that corrosion on that copper means that this is not going to be reliable as it is now. But naphtha and isopropyl do wondrous things. So this will be done a little bit later. I'm going to start with cleaning the body. Just tons of rubbing compound, and I don't want to waste naphtha on big chunks of that. So I'm not really using any pressure here with this little flathead screwdriver. Just going to take kind of larger pieces of this rubbing compound as much as possible and knock them off and brush them off onto a paper towel. This is going to take a little bit of time, but not too bad. All right, not as much came up easily as I'd hoped for, but it's a start. So I've got some naphtha on a paper towel. And naphtha should remove all this rubbing compound without affecting the finish. And it's going to be a kind of a yucky process doing this in a few passes, but you can see instantly so much better. So let me get through here. This is a transition point where the rubbing compound is kind of blending into the top coat for some reason. So This will be a few different passes. And I'll do the same thing on the cavity on the other side. It doesn't have to be perfect here where I'm starting, but it has to be really good. I need a very clean surface for the shielding tape to adhere to. So let me continue all this, and hopefully I'll show you a pretty after. All right, that's almost infinitely better than it was. I can't really budge that thick line of polishing compound here at the top all around. That's just kind of embedded into the clear coat for some reason. I guess they shot all the blue and then did a polishing compound on that and then followed up with clear coat, and it just kind of locked this top nasty layer of polishing compound in place. But that's beyond my pay grade without going through here with a router and exposing fresh wood all throughout that route, which is not necessary. Now that it's all clean, I should be able to get the copper foil to adhere, and I got all the dirt off the old perimeter of the pick guard and the old perimeter of the jack and the bridge. When I'm done, any haze from using the naphtha should buff right out of the finish. I don't think the owner's particularly fussed with that. This is an old guitar that's had some wear. He's fine with it looking that way. I even asked if he wanted me to transfer the new block and an arm to the old top plate and saddle so he could have that "I've been playing this for 20 years" look. He said he did not care as long as it works. So he's going to have the new shiny Goto there, which will be just fine. One other thing I'm including, mostly so that the owner will know all the little things. The old jack plate, this jack was a long jack rather than the standard, and it's just a little too far out, and it's moved from contact with the body. It's lost mechanical strength over the years, and so has a very intermittent connection. And this shielded wire was good quality, but was just a little too short. And when it was in place, it was just really hard to get things out enough. I like to have a little more slack built in. Anyway, when I get this done, it'll all be really nice, and I may put this old jack plate in my ultrasonic cleaner just so it matches the new bridge a little bit more. And they'll both wear pretty well. You go on this next tour in January and go out on the road for a couple months and sweat on it, it'll all relic right up. But yeah, this has just got layers of funk on it, and I'm gonna get it all cleaned up too. All right, so nice adhesive foil all throughout. And while it's conductive adhesive, I've still put little bits of solder here and there just to ensure it. And I've already done this, but just for the fun of it, I'll show you. I set this to beep mode. It'll beep if we have continuity. 0.5 ohms. I got 0.5 ohms if I touch the leads together. Now notice I don't have continuity to here. I will later. That will get continuity when this is reinstalled, because this will be at ground and this will be at ground, and that's tied to this, that's tied to this. So this will all be part of the shield when this is in place. I'm probably going to do this next just to go ahead and have it in place and a longer bit of wire coming out to the rest of it. All right, got a nice bit of shielded wire here. Pretty basic stuff, but it's very secure. This 22 gauge is not going to pull out. And new jack in there, everything's tight with a tooth washer, and all this cleaned up with naphtha. It still doesn't look new, that wasn't the goal, but it's clean, and I know that these are going to be very good, reliable connections. All right, some foil on the back of the entire pick guard, some of that yellow plastic wire, white plastic wire replaced with some more cloth covered. Added a bit of 16 gauge bus wire just in case one of the pots came loose on stage. Shouldn't break any connections. Got that nice shielded cable going here to the output jack, bridge ground, and the copper foil in places like this and this will contact the aluminum foil. Let's put it all in place, make sure all the wires line up appropriately. And now comes the fun part, making sure that we haven't introduced any places where the signal can short out against the shielding. So let me get a cable and an amp and we'll check the output. Well, I'll let you in on a dirty little secret. Sometimes it's faster for me to just plug this into the computer and use an amp plug-in in Logic. Anyway, let's just test the basic operations. So bridge pickup. There's no tone circuit on this bridge pickup in this wiring. Both pickups, that 60 cycle hum goes away. So that's good. All right, so all that seems to be good. We got all the pickup configurations working as expected. The only real noise I'm getting, as long as I'm touching the metal, is the 60 cycle. And the shielding can't eliminate that. It can reduce it slightly, but this is more for environmental noise that we get in the system. I think this should sound great. Once the Godot arrives, I'll put it all in place, and we'll turn our attention to the nut then.